Good day. I'm going to talk English in this videotape because it is meant to be for the English-speaking people. Um, I want to make a few observations and try and understand, explain to you what I don't understand from all of this information that keep on coming out from several people, mainly on YouTube, other platforms too, but mainly on YouTube and Facebook. I don't know if the information that we hear all the time lately are truth or not. But if it is, it sounds good. But is it? Because so far, from January 20th or even from November 3rd, we haven't seen any action taken that would really come out and overturn all this fake information that the Democrats have provided and claimed that they won the elections. We all know that they did not win the elections. How do you bring it out? How do you prove it? There is information, I understand, that the president and President Trump, that is, to me, he's the only president. The other one is just someone who's given a temporary job, like a student is given in the summer, something like that, just to get pocket money for his schooling year. So I feel that if the United States intelligence and the United States armed forces and the president have all this information, why do we need to wait until we get an 81% support for the president to impose martial law and pick up all of this dirt and disappear them from the face of earth? Why? If we have in all this evidence on tapes, as I've heard many times from different people, that there's hours of tapes showing every single detail of how the Democrats, the cabal, stole the elections. If that's the case, why do we have to wait? Why does the president have to wait for the states to recount? They can allow them, they can push them to go ahead and recount. But in the meantime, the government should not be in a state that it is today. It is impossible to even understand why. Even if the president said to the United States Armed Forces that he wanted to wait longer, they should have advised him that the country is suffering. Even though he's capable of coming back and then refixing the economy, he cannot refix people's soul. People are suffering. People are getting more and more depressed, and they're losing hope. And they are at the point where they think that maybe the president, and as I said, that's the only person is the president, is President Trump. The people have started feeling that maybe he's giving up on them, that he let them down, that he's not going to fight to get the cabal out. So what is it? I mean, why do we have to wait for 81%? I can understand why the president wants, for historical reasons, for 500 years later, that nobody will be able to deny that there was a complete, majority, extremely big majority of people that supported the cleaning of house. But what's happening today? People are going through hell. People are getting more and more towards civil war in the United States. So I would think that the President and the United States Armed Forces should consider the facts much more carefully, evaluate the situation much more carefully, and protect the American people from this cabal. Now, not later, now. It is time for the American people to get back their freedom, their confidence, their respect, and they also need to help the rest of the world. Billions of people all over the world are suffering because of the stupidity of the Democratic Party in the United States of America. Now, it's time to take action. Mr. President, Mr. Trump, it is time that you stand up, show the proof, make it public, and take action immediately. Put the country back to its feet, establish democracy for the long run, and there it is. We're not asking for anything out of the ordinary. The American dream is to have democracy, a home, a roof over their head, to be able to afford to send their kids at school and educate them. They're not asking for anything out of this world. The United States has a very decent people, hard-working people. The huge majority of the American people are hard-working people, decent people. Those that make the mistake and they misjudge the people and they mistreat them, they should be punished. And so pick them up and punish them, but allow the rest of the people to run their lives as it was meant to be. Now, I'm going to also, since I'm talking in English today, I'm going to make a few observations about the latest conflict in the Middle East between Israel and they're claiming the Hamas. But bottom line is that Israel is bombarding not a Hamas area, but the Palestinian country, the land of the Palestinians. Now, we all understand, we all accept, we all want Israelis to have their own country. They deserve to have their own country, and they have it. Slowly, they expanded it to the point that they could never even imagine when President Trump gave them the whole city of Jerusalem, old and new, which it could be argued strongly, but nevertheless, to avoid future arguments and fightings, he decided that they should get the whole thing and get it over with and let the rest of the people on the other side live peacefully in their own land. And not only he gave them Jerusalem, but President Trump did something out of the, again, that nobody would ever believed that it would be given to them, even that Syria would not bring any arguments about it. The heights of Golan, as known as the Golan Heights. He gave them that too, and you can see that Syria, Russia, nobody argued about it because they really all want to have peace in that area. So they decided, okay, so give them Jerusalem, give them the Golan Heights, what they have already taken so far, but they should stop expending and killing any more people. Now, I understand that the Hamas is an organization that in America it's easily, they call it a destructive organization, a criminal organization. But why was it created? Why would the Arabs decide to create an organization that would be fed money-wise and weapons by other Arab and non-Arab countries to do what? They created the Hamas in order to be on the opposite side of Israel and to let it know that they cannot continue hitting and killing hundreds and hundreds of people, innocent people, civilians, kids, because they wanted to always expand and take another piece of land. You have to understand that Israel has the right to have a homeland, and it has one. But it has to start respecting the fact that the Palestinians deserve to have a homeland also. They're not that innocent either, and none of their politicians are honest to the Palestinian people either. Because if they were honest, the Palestinian politicians, they would have come to terms with Israel long ago if they really wanted to create a country recognized by the United Nations and every country in the world, and have secure borders that nobody would dare assault. Then they would sit down with the Israelis and the rest of the world. If they needed to, they could ask for support from the United Nations or from America or from other countries. It doesn't have to be the United Nations. They could have chosen two other countries that they feel that they're friendly to them, and they could go in and mediate and argue and fight to establish two countries, Israel and Palestine, and get it over with. But they're not honest politicians in Palestine. Why? In my view, it's because a lot of money is involved here. Their money that given to the Palestinian authorities for years and years to maintain, to sustain, to prevent things from happening and to support the creation of different departments and services for the Palestinian people. But that way, it feels and it appears to me that the Palestinian Authority people, those who are running things, they're using the funds not only for the good of the Palestinian people, but for their own benefit. It does not make any sense any other way that they would not have come to terms with Israel all these decades, and that they would continue to be in a situation that they are today. It means to me that you, the Palestinian Authority politicians, have sold out your own people. You benefit from all of this turmoil. You want it to continue to be like this. That's why you are not negotiating seriously and finish this whole thing. You didn't have any objections, real objections about Jerusalem. You even accepted the fact for the Golan Heights, which is for Syria. Why haven't you signed a peace agreement with Israel? Recognize it as a country so they can recognize you at the same time and be beautiful neighbors, good neighbors, decent, loving one another. Why? If you have your own piece of land, your own country, and Israel feels secure in its own borders and does not have to spend every penny that is given to them by America or other places or whatever they collect from their own citizens to buy more and more weapons to support the existence of the intelligence organizations such as Mossad. Why? Why don't you do things on the Palestinian side that you can take away from the Israelis all these excuses if you want it? If you want it that they're doing as an excuse because it serves them, why do you allow it to go on? Why don't you do your part so that they can stop using excuses that you are going to attack them or that you do not recognize them, that you do not want to have diplomatic relations with them, and so they continue to harm you? I happen to be Greek, and I know that Greece has done more for the Palestinian people than the Arab world has done in the past. Greece stood with you, supported you, prevented many times more conflicts between you and Israel, or at least it tried, and it has long ago accepted the fact that you both deserve to have a country. We like both of you. Why don't you guys understand it? We know that you both deserve to have a nation. There it is. Establish it. Negotiate with the Jews. Sit down, and as they want to have a Jewish state, you have the right to have a Muslim state or whatever religion you want. I'm not telling you what to do. But I'm just telling you that you have the right to do as you please. And it will be accepted by every single person on this earth. As a Greek, I know, I promise you that. It would be accepted. It would be valued very highly. It would be respected very highly. In that part of the world, I understand that there is now a lot of wealth found in the bottom of the sea and all that. And you probably feel that you're left out a little bit. But again, you can try and see whether Israel or the rest of the world will convince Israel that you probably deserve a small portion of their wealth that they're going to get from down there, if you feel that you were in the area and you were thrown out. Although we all know that that area, when the British, and I don't know who gave them the right to decide that they had the authority to donate it or give it or, whatever, the British have done a lot of crimes against humanity. And this is one, because they decided themselves to offer it to anybody who wanted it, but then again you are to be blamed because you did not show any interest for that piece of land that today is Israel. But it is the Jewish people all over the world that decided that they would take that piece of land and turn it into a country. I visited Israel 2 times years ago, and I want to go back because what I saw then, I can tell you that it's really a miracle. They've built a beautiful country on top of sand. It's a desert. It was a desert. They've created a beautiful country with lots of green and lots of beautiful neighborhoods and cities. It's a small country. It's what, the size of Connecticut? But they had vision and they spend money. And not because Israelis have all the money. I'm aware that the Hebrews, the Jewish people from Canada, from the United States, have donated lots of money in order to build Israel to what it is today. And good for them. I applaud them for that. Because these people, the 5 million, whatever they are in Israel, 5.5, they deserve to have a decent place to live. Enough of the people that are living around, the desert for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. You need a steady place that you can call your home. And Palestine is still a beautiful place. It is. We visited. When I was there, I visited on the other side, and we had coffee and lunch at places, and it's beautiful. So continue the negotiations. You, the Palestinian people, start getting more involved in your affairs, in your everyday life. Don't let your politicians to do it all by themselves. We as Greeks, I'm from the outside, I'm from North America, but here I am now, and I see how they run Greece, the Greek politicians. None of them is really decent and good. None. They've done a lot of harm to our country too. And so, with a good heart to you both, the Israelis, the Jewish people, and the Palestinians, the Muslim people, I would really appreciate it and feel good. God would feel good if the two of you sit down and find a solution and stop the fighting, stop the killing with one another. I've seen Jewish homes, special rooms with walls that they're so thick and created to avoid having families killed because it is really out of this world. It shouldn't be that way. We're on this planet, we can share it, your home, and feel good. I'm going to go through though now, this time I'm going to talk about the Jewish religion, how it was created, and I'm going to argue a little bit about the stories that the Jews have continuously tried to impose upon the rest of the world, and they want us to accept it the way they present it. There will be a day when I'm going to talk about the Islam, but I'm going to talk now about Judaism. And I'm going to tell them that I've said it before. This is not the first time I make statements like that. As I said, I love Israel. It's a beautiful country. I almost bought an apartment in Tel Aviv then. You understand? That's how much I liked it. Now, I will say this. The Jewish people, at some point, they decided to create a religion, to create a story for themselves, and feel that they belong someplace, that they exist, because until then, they were the people that moved frequently, all the time, within the area of the desert, which is huge in the Middle East, and it connects with a lot of those different countries there, especially these days that they have specific countries. Then it was just a desert that everybody was running out like a play yard, like crazy, moving from spot to spot in order to find more materials, to create more things, and to sell and to survive. And there was not enough water, so they moved from place to place to find a little oasis or a river, or and usually that was towards the side of Egypt, or towards the other side Haifa, in that area. That's where they usually have rivers. So the women needed to be there in order to wash the family's clothes and cook and all that, and for them to create jobs and survive. We all need water. We all know that the reason they're called Semites is because they are a mixed people coming from different countries of the area, and they are a mixture of people. Fine, no problem. The truth is that at some point, and that was not when they claiming, it was way after, they decided to create a religion. And they did. It was really not a religion. Even they know it and they understand it, that the 613 laws that they have, or articles of a constitution, is the Torah, the book, which they try to incorporate into a religion book, because the people that lived in those areas were so undisciplined. They really never, ever did whatever someone might have told them to do. So they decided, those that were smarter, that they were more educated, they decided, how do we organize this group of people, and there were many, to act like decent human beings, so that they do not do crazy, nutty things. So they decided, and they imposed this book, the Torah as they now call it, into a religion form, so that they can be a bit scared, a bit afraid of God, of a power that is above, that you cannot touch, and you never know when he's going to slap your face and punish you. So that, just like any other religion did, so that they can be a little bit more aware that they're not the biggest power, that there's a power higher than themselves. Now, they did a decent job up to a point, but they decided, out of their desire to be super power, to be the super human beings, that because they were so felt behind that everybody else, because everybody called them names, and everybody knew that they just live around the deserts of the Middle East, and they're doing really nothing special, and that they had no respect from other people, from other nations, from other countries. So they decided that they will claim things that they did not even think that the future will prove that they are not right, that they are not right on their claims at all, that they're way out of order. And yet they decided that they will do it and they will fight and they're stubborn and they will continue to support it and claim that God chose them to be the chosen. They claimed 7,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, from when they started writing the book, life has started. They could not imagine or think of life having been on earth for millions and millions of years before they started writing their book. So they claimed that life started with Adam and Eve as they saw it. They came up with a story, and that is because they looked at the Christian books that were already written and created even 400 years after Christ's resurrection, when the Christians had created their religion and they had already edited and finalized their book of religion, the Bible. Close to it then, the people that had started writing the book about 100 years after Christ's death and resurrection, they were not any close to finalizing it. So they looked at all of their writings so far, and they decided, wait a minute, the Christians here are not mentioning anywhere when life started, when day became day, and who created the night and all that. So they decided to write all of this tale, because really it's a fiction book. The whole Torah is a fiction book. I mean, that's a fact. And it was started being written about 80 to 100 years after Christ by someone who came up with the idea that something has to be done for the Hebrews to become a more specific people, something that they have as a basis to trust and to believe in, so they can feel better and good and be worthy. The word Hebrew, even today, they're trying so desperately to hide the origin of it. Why? I don't understand. The word Hebrew, and in Hebrew they call it Evri, is the Greek word Evreos. 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 We're using it today, every day. Anytime that a Greek has to state that something is moving frequently or quickly enough, not steady at one place, we use the word Evreos. It moves Evreos. Okay? So, the ancient Greeks, being that they were so much advanced in civilization from everybody else, and having created this largest, most specific language that exists today, decided that these people deserve to be known as a nation, as a nationality, not to be known as gypsies running around the Middle East, the desert. So let's name them something. What do we get? What do we find to name them? So they looked at it, they studied a little bit, and they said, wait, what do they do? They move frequently. They change areas in the desert from place to place, and they continue to do their life. So let's use them Evrei, because more than one. Evreos is one, Evrei. So they call them Evreos Evrei. And since then, they're known as the Evrei And in English they're called the Hebrews, but the Evrei. Huh? They couldn't pronounce it properly, so they put the H in front of the E, because always if you call Hellenes, they put the H because they cannot pronounce the E as light as it is in that part of the word, the first letter. So they add the H and they call it Hebrews, from the word Ivros, Evreos. Now, and they have it, and it's beautiful, and it's good. And they created an alphabet, and they created whatever it's needed to have a language and all that. And they claim that that's their oldest language. It's their language. Yeah, there's new words in it and all that, but it's basically their language. Now, why would anybody call themselves Hebrews and a language if the word Israel ever existed, as they claim, for thousands of years before? Why would they accept to be called Hebrews, and why would the Greeks call them Hebrews when they were looking to find a name, if there was such a word in existence that called Israel? It didn't exist. It did never, ever exist. Not in our history books, not in the Hebrew books, and not in the Egyptian history books either. There's nowhere, the word Israel to be found. Israel was invented as a word in that fiction book, the Torah, because they wanted to create a story for themselves. Fine. Today, they have created Israel. It exists. Fine, we accept it. Good for them. They can name it as they want. They decided it would be Israel. Fine. But you cannot. If that's the case, you would easily avoid calling yourselves Hebrews. You would change your alphabet and call it Israeli. And you would do everything as Israeli, not Hebrew. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it, that Israel was created through that book, and it's fine. You're there now. You deserve to be there, stay there, and have a decent life, beautiful life, enjoy it, and continue to build Israel even better and give more services to your people. The next time I visit, I want to see it even better than I left it the last time. So I have nothing against Jews. I lived in the New York City and New Jersey, but in New York City for decades. And I, with my brothers, had businesses. And we dealt a lot with Jewish people, Jewish Americans. And we had dinners together and lunch, and we entertained each other, and we did business, and we exchanged money a lot. And they gave me a lot of jokes, Jewish jokes, that I love to sometimes repeat. And I find them very funny. And I have friends that they're Jewish people. I have nothing against Jewish people. But we cannot shut up and not state the truth. The Jewish people can be what they are. Nobody has to argue about it, as long as you do not continue to claim that you exist way before you really exist. Because your aim was to overshadow the Greek history, and you can never do that, never will be able to do that, because the Greeks left monuments that they're there and they're spread out in the whole world. So you cannot ever make anybody believe that you were here before the Greeks, or that you were, or that you are still a completely civilized country. You're not. We are. our existence, our history, and what happens every day, even the way the Greek people oppose or fight the decisions of this Greek government, which is really a cabal government, still shows that the Greeks, with a lot of patience and a lot of knowledge of what civilization means, we are facing them, and believe it or not, they may think that they're winning, but they're not. We, the people, are winning because we are Greeks and we know how to tolerate and let them exhaust themselves out. They've tried, many people, many nations, they tried to overcome the Greeks and vanish them from the face of the earth. It never happened, never will. You need us because we are civilization. We can take you forward to other levels and continue to be a better people. So as long as you can understand it, that the Greeks, we have determined, and we are many, that we will fight back and we are telling our church already that part of your book that it was incorporated to our religion has to be removed. Has to be removed. The Old Testament has absolutely no business being there because you wrote it after you saw that the Christians had no mentioning of when life started. It's because Christ never mentioned anything like that. He taught for 2.5 years of his life, from 30.5 years old until 33 when you guys gave him to the Romans and they hung him. So he never discussed anything like that. So then that's why the Greeks in the religious books do not state when life started, because nobody really knew. It is the Greeks by then knew how many stars or where the stars are. They knew how many planets there were in our system. We named them. So please try and understand it, that this part of our religion, things will change. We will win. And we are going to impose our true history, not what the Jewish people want. This Old Testament will be removed from our religious books because you know it and I know it. There was no Abraham and Rebecca and all of this nonsense. Moses, really? He had a brother with the name Aaron. Where? When? Just to go over that a little bit. If Moses were in existence, and he was in Egypt and he grew up there because he was there as a baby, and they put him in a little thing, whatever, and they let him run down the water, and they found him, and he became a prince or whatever. And then he decided that he would take his people from Egypt to drive them back to what you came up with as a word later in the book, Israel. Back to your lands. You still didn't know until lately, really, a few tenths of years back, that the area where you claim that the Exodus took place, why would anybody have to cross the water? Why would Moses have to throw his cane and stop the waters so that his people would go through to the other side of the river? Why? At the top, at the end of the connection of the African land and the Asian side, It was attached. It was land. Sinai, it was not separated. Sinai is inside Egypt, and a part of it is inside Asia now. Then they didn't have the Suez Canal. It was land. So all they had to do is cross the land. Why would anybody go down 10 feet down the thing so that they can cross the water? Why? It is all symbolic. It's all about you claiming that you had the support of God, and when you threw his cane, the waters opened and it made space for your people to go through, and then it went back and it killed all the others that were coming to get you. I understand those years that they didn't have the intelligence to know that later on people would find out what the truth is. And so they wrote a few things. But you are now smart people, so stop trying to impose that fake book, that fake story, the tale, the fiction upon other people. It's not succeeding. It never did. It never will. So, and something else. Inside the part of what now is Asia, the part of Sinai that was left from the Egyptians a few years back, it was given a donation to the Palestinians so that they can live there because Israel had taken most of their land. So, and you're forcing the Palestinians to go through Israel to go to their land. You do not even allow them a route at the edge of the borders so they can directly go to that piece of land. Who are you? No, that's not fair. And it's not proper. And it's not democratic, because you are not going to continue having the power to control the movement of the Palestinian people from one section of their land to the other. Would you want that? Would you want it for somebody else to tell you whether you move from Haifa to Tel Aviv directly, or you go around someplace else and you go in? So you need to start taking things as they are, not as what you wish them to be. It doesn't work that way. Try to respect other people's right to have a nation and democracy, civilization, and you will be in good hands. Nobody's going to bother you. Look at the Palestinian people. They're democratic people too. You claiming that Israel is the only democracy in the area. No. Palestinians are democratic people too. The people itself, they're democratic. They have values. You can tell that they act and they create things different than the rest of the Arab world. You can tell that they really desperately want democracy. So you're not convincing anybody that you are in danger. No, you're not in danger. You are the danger for them. Stop doing that. Give them the opportunity to get a country. And because you see their politicians allowing it to continue this way because they benefit, it doesn't mean you have to allow it anymore. Expose them. Tell the Palestinian people, tell your people, tell the world what you see, so they can be forced to sit down and negotiate and come to an agreement with you, so that you can both have a peaceful country, each side, and enjoy life. Enjoy life so we can visit all of you guys. Trust me, I would never want to see a Jewish fellow hurt. Why would I? Nor do I want any Muslim, any Palestinian, or anybody to be hurt. But try to show respect for other people's history, view, countries. Respect. If you don't show respect, we are civilization. We can only tolerate it up to a certain extent, and then we turn our back. And you are the losers by that, not we. You are the losers if civilization turns its back on you. So, the other thing I wanted to mention, on that side of Sinai, the story says that Moses went there on top of a mountain for 50 nights, 50 days and nights. And he brought down all the 613 commandments on rocks created by the lightnings of God and all that, the power of God. Let's make it clear. On what part of that Sinai area do you find that mountain? Where? Suez Canal, they opened it. Now it's not touching, it's not lined anymore. It's the Suez Canal. They opened it, they joined it with the sea, the Red Sea, blah, blah. So on that side of the Asia, where exactly is a mount that supposedly Moses went on for 50 nights? Where? There isn't. The only mountain, it's not a mountain, it's a hill, but anyway, it's kind of tall. It's the Sinai that's left inside Egypt, because that is Sinai, because they gave part of the Sinai on the other side, because they opened the Suez Canal on this side. It doesn't mean their side is not still called the Sinai. It's Sinai. That's where the mountain is, and that's where the monastery of St. Catherine is. Not on the other side where supposedly Moses went and brought down all these laws. And something else about Moses in that area. Do you really want people to believe? Do you really insist that people should continue to believe that when Moses came down from the mountain and gave his people all of these laws, and after a while he was disappointed because the people still continued to do crazy shit and they never followed orders and were not falling within the religion status that he wanted them to be, or give them an order, how to act in life. They were not following. The Jewish people, the Hebrews, are basically not disciplined people. And I'll tell you in a minute what I mean. But because he was so disappointed, he decided to leave them, leave his wife and his child, who was young, and go back to Egypt, because he was not finding that they were capable of becoming civilized. Now, you claiming that the 17th letter of your Hebrew alphabet has a numerical value of the number 80. So you claiming that you think, or you believe, that that was the age of Moses then. So if Moses was 80 years old, then how is it that you claiming, is it really true that he had a child when he was 80 or 70, and by the time he became 80, the child was 10? So when he left the wife and the child, and he was on their way back to Egypt, as he went to bed one night to sleep, God went to him and really told him that he deserves to be really punished, because what he did to his people was not fair and it was not decent, that he left them behind and he left them alone and blah, blah, blah. And then he needed to go back and guide them and take them to safety. Now let me ask you, God wanted to punish Moses because he left his people unattended. Do you really think and believe inside your heart that God told him the punishment will be that you go back and you circumcise your son? God told him, go back now and for punishment you circumcise your son. Why? God was so inappropriate, he was so bad that he decided to punish the kid for Mr. Moses? You see how you're presenting it in the book? Why does it have to be that way? Why couldn't they wanted to impose it upon people that they do get the boys circumcised at a certain age. Why? They should make it clear to the people why they're doing it, not because of religion reasons and because Moses was punished by doing that to his son. Say the truth. The area was poor. It was sand. There was no water to clean, to have, to bathe the babies, the kids, the boys. So yes, in that, I can understand that there were infections that happened a lot, and they faced a lot of issues, and so they were looking to find a way to get over that. But you have to really claim that God gave him the order to be punished by circumcising his son. I'm telling you all this, not because of anything else, but because the world is going forward and people know a lot more than you believe they do, and they do not buy all these stories, so stop insisting in pushing them in and forcing it upon other people. I've heard radio shows in the States on public radio, national public radio, years ago. They had beautiful conversations. I followed these talk shows a lot. And even the Jewish people themselves had questions of these stories. And by continuing to want to impose your views on Christianity and claim that you have forced us to eulogize you, Abraham and all of them, in our religion, I promise you, and many of us do promise you, that this part of the religion, the Old Testament, will be removed whether you or the Greek priests and the Greek church believes in it and understands it or not. It will not continue to be a part of the Christianity because it has absolutely no business. It's a fake story. It's a fiction, and it has no business being part of our Bible. Now, do we have everything right in Christianity? No. You don't think I understand that there's a lot of the things there that the Christians used in order to overcome, to step over the old Greek religion and suffocate them? You don't think we know that they have killed thousands upon thousands of Greeks in order to force them to become Christians? We do. Now, that's a different story though. We'll talk about it some other time. For now, I'm just telling you that I appreciate more than you know the Hebrews, the Jewish people, whatever you want to call them, the Israelis. I respect them, I understand them, but they have to start accepting facts and the truth. And nothing can hide it. Greece is here, full of monuments. Israel is there, no monuments at all, not even a stone, a rock, nothing. So please stop making claims that do not make any sense. It's not going to work out. It never did for 2,000 years, and it will not from now on either. So I let you go for now. I will end this conversation right now. And I think that if you have any observations, please write them on the bottom. I will read them carefully, but I can promise you that I know what I'm doing and I know religion more than you think I do. And I will come back and give you answers if I have to. But nicely, we are here to discuss things. We're not here to curse each other. Again, my respects to the Israeli people, but not to fake stories. Thank you very much. Be good, and we'll talk later.